Okay, good morning everyone. Hello, welcome to another tutorial. I thought we'd do something a bit different today because I've done a couple of little demos with horses, particularly brown bay horses over the last week or so. So I thought we'd do something a little bit different, and I've just been working on a few bee projects in between commissions, just because there's something that can be done in an hour or so really. They don't take that long, so I thought I would share this bee with you today. This is a little project that I did where I actually created obviously the 3 bees, but I'll just explain where I got the image from. So the image that I got from Pixabay, which is a free reference image reference site for artists. I will put a link to it so you can find it, but this was the actual image off Pixabay. I then put the image into Photoshop. If I just show you the printout, here's the printout that I did. So this was the original image of Pixabay. I put it into Photoshop and I took this image and flipped it over to create this image, and then this image I just took and just twisted it around slightly, and that became that image. So I actually got the composition for the picture from just the one image, and like I say, I will put a link to that so you can find it. And I'll put it on the screen as well, so when we start you can actually see the reference picture on the screen. I just created a line drawing which I scribbled on the back of this one. So if I turn this over, just put some pencil down on the back, and you can already probably see the indents, and then just outlined it, went over it with a harder pencil to get the outline down. And there's an outline here which again I will put onto my Facebook page so that you can find the outline image if you want to have a go yourselves. There's the outline image, or obviously you can just create your own. So that's the image. I obviously did the 3 on this one, but today I'm just going to do the 1, because once we've gone through the 1, we're just repeating the process on the other 2 anyway, so there's not really any need to go through all 3 of them. That will just take time for the video. We should be able to get this one done in about an hour maybe. You could probably do it in less time, but obviously with me talking and explaining things, it'd be about an hour. This is the line drawing that I've put down already to get started. I'll just go through the tools that I will be using, and I will try and put a link to all of these in the comments as well. List all the pencils, list the tools, put a link in so you can hopefully find them. My kneadable eraser, which I use for all of my drawing actually, so I'll be using that. My mono Tombow 0 eraser, I use that on all my, those are the 2 erasers that I always use in all my projects. I don't know if you can see this one, let's just go through the pencils. I don't know if you can see that. That is a warm grey one. Getting very small now, but I don't actually need that much of it, so that will do for today. We need a mid-tone grey, mid-tone cold grey. I should be using a 3, but if you didn't have a 3, if you had a 4, anything that's like a mid-tone grey really, that will work. We need a cream, and I should say actually I forgot to say these I'm using mostly the Faber Castell Polychromos for this one. We will be using one Caran dash, which I'll explain later, but this is just going through the Faber Castells, the Polychromos, so we'll use the cream from the Polychromos range. We will be using the dark Sepia, which is like a dark browny colour. Obviously we'll be using the black because it's a bumblebee, that we're doing a bumblebee. I will be using a little bit of the cold grey one, that's another small one, but we'll be using a little bit of the cold grey one. I'll be using a nice sort of ochre yellowy colour, dark sort of browny yellow. This one I've got the dark Naples ochre, but actually if I just grab another pencil That's the light yellow ochre, and you can see there's not too much difference, to be honest. So you could use any sort of browny, mustardy type yellow if you've got hold of that. Now these pencils, I'll probably only, well, I don't know whether I'll use one or two actually, I'm not 100% sure. I've used the terracotta one on the one that on the image that I've just shown you, but actually if you didn't have terracotta, the dark sepia would sort of do, sorry, not the dark sepia, the burnt sienna would do the same. We're just looking for that sort of orangey browny colour, so either of those, something like that, if you've got something like that. Bit of Bistre, just to sort of blend a couple of areas. And then the one pencil that I was just mentioning, the Caran dash, we're actually going to use the white Aquarelle, which we're just going to use to blend the wings. We'll only just use that on the wings part. And if you don't have it, again, it's not the end of the world. It will just give us that sort of translucent effect on the wings, but it isn't really desperate. You could just use your warm greys or your cold greys one instead. Okay, so let's get started. The other thing I will be using is, as always, just a little bit of paper, just to protect my hands, or protect the paper from my hands and the oils that will come out of my hands. So let's get started. Let's get that. I think we're going to start with a cream actually. Let's get that one. Let's get the eraser, and the first thing I'm going to do is just take the kneadable eraser and just knock these lines back a little bit, the line drawing. There we go. For me, I find that if I just knock the drawing straight away, I'll still outline, erase the outlines afterwards, but it's just less sort of pencil down there to smudge, so I just always like to knock the drawing back. Okay, so we'll get started, and I think we'll just start by putting in these yellow areas to start with. That seems like as good a place as any to start. So I'll just take those lines out with the Tombow and then pick up the bits with some pencil there somewhere. Let's get the yellow into here. And whenever I use the Tombow eraser, I always just pick up the little bits. I very rarely brush it like that, and I don't use a brush. I just pick up the bits with the kneadable eraser, and for me, I find that's the safest way to make sure that I'm not going to smudge something across the page. Okay, so we've got some yellow in there, and also in this bit. That's going to be yellow as well. Let's get some yellow in there. And this is the cream from the Polychromos range. So we've got a good base layer. There we go, in there. Okay, so whilst I'm working on the base layers, I'm just going to plot out my my stripes now, because I have found, whilst I've been doing these little bees, all I can say is it's been must have been a very confusing week for me, because I have got lost with these stripes more times than I would care to admit. So if I plot it out now using the cold grey one, hopefully I won't get lost. head in here. There we go, right, we come down here. This will become the leg, but I'll go on to that in a bit. We've obviously got a bit of stripe under here, so let's put that bit in. And this will obviously be black. I'm just plotting with a, actually there's a bit more yellow there. Just plotting with a base layer to start with, but put a bit more black in. And then we have got a bit of grey, or will be black, under there. Coming round here. And then a bit of black will be going in there. I just can't believe how many times this week I could have got lost over just a few stripes on a bee. I think, like I say, I think it's been quite a hectic week, and just affected my ability to count stripes. Okay, so that's the sort of the base layers in. We are obviously going to go over all of that, but at least now I know where my stripes are. There's going to be another little bit that comes around here, tiny little bit of suggestion of a stripe in there. There's not actually a stripe, but there we go. So we've got the bases in. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is go back to the yellow and just start with the dark Naples. Just start to darken this yellow down. Perhaps I might have over-sharpened my pencils a little bit as they're breaking. There we go. And we'll put a little bit of the dark Naples yellow into here as well. So on the bee, obviously the bee will have, he's not just like one solid shape, he has got his little parts that are all attached but sort of move independently. So the hairs that are going to come on this dark part here, they're going to go upwards, and then this bit sort of starts on his abdomen, and this is going to come down this way. So when I work on this area, I'll be working up, and then this area I shall work down, just to try and keep the hairs going in the right sort of direction. There we go. Okay, and I'm just going to go into a little bit of the Bistre. I'll use this again in a while, actually, to blend a little bit more. But I'm just going to put a little suggestion where that yellow meets the dark colour, and then just blend that out. And I'll just put a little bit here whilst I'm working on it. So I'm not pressing on hard, I just want a nice, just a little bit of colour. The whole point is I want to try and make him look fuzzy, so I don't want to press on too hard with the lines, or just want to keep him quite sort of soft. I should have said, actually, I forgot to say, the paper that I'm working on today is Fabriano Artistico hot press watercolour paper. This is the extra white paper. This is the 300 GSM that comes in the pad. The original drawing that I showed you at the start, that was done on the 640. So it's a thicker paper, but this works just as well. The 300 is great, actually. I do still use it quite a lot. Okay, so we've got some colour on his yellow parts. I'm just going to go in with the dark sepia, because this the brown area, sorry, the black area. On the reference picture, you'll see that, or hopefully you'll be able to see, that actually it's not really truly black. It's quite a browny black on this particular bumblebee. So I'm going to just put a layer of the dark sepia underneath the black. And that will hopefully just intensify the black and just give that sort of brown undertone. Let's come around here. So I don't know whereabouts you are, but obviously I'm in the UK, and July is our summer, and we have got lots and lots of bees and bumblebees around at the minute. We always have lots of flowers in the garden, usually in any one year, but this year I've tried to put a cut flower patch into the garden to try and attract even more bees, and also to have the cut flowers in the house. And we've just got a massive amount of bees outside at the minute, just enjoying the flowers, and it's absolutely lovely to see. And the other day, you hear these stories about bees that are tired and people feed them, you know, sugar water to just sort of replenish them and rehydrate them. And there was a bee on the floor in the hall in the house, and it obviously looked tired. And I've tried in the past to use sugar water to sort of give bees that are thirsty, and I couldn't really get them. They didn't really want it. They didn't want to take it. So I thought this time I'll actually try a bit of honey. We had some honey, and I thought I'd try a bit of diluted honey to just see if I could quench its thirst. And so I put a spoon down in front of it with this diluted honey, and it took it, and I was really pleased. And it just had a nice long drink, and then I opened the front door and it flew off, and hopefully it was okay. So I don't think I'll bother with sugar water again. I'll just get the honey out. So this is obviously going to be the wing here, which we'll do in a little while. I'll do that afterwards. Let me just come under here with some of the brown, which is going to be the black. Need a tiny little bit of colour under there. worrying too. I mean, this isn't, if this was a commission, obviously I would pay lots of attention to how the stripes are going, so that it looked like the, you know, the picture that it was supposed to be. But I'm just sort of enjoying playing with the stripes, and I'm not too worried about getting them absolutely perfect. So if the stripes don't look exact, you know, I don't mind. It's just a little drawing for a bit of fun. And obviously if this was a commission anyway, I would spend a lot longer on it. We'll get through this quite quickly, but I would spend much longer on it if it was something that, you know, a client had asked me to draw. Okay, so that comes down there. That's probably about it for the brown. I think we will come down onto the legs, but I'll do that afterwards. Do the legs all in one go. Okay, so, oh, and let's put a little bit in there on his head. And this head will come under here, under the wing a little bit. Okay, right. Let's take the black and let's darken this down. Actually, just before I do that, I'm just going to, I can see quite a little bit of sort of the browny orange colour, so either the terracotta or the burnt sienna colour. I'm just going to use that to blend there. This terracotta colour that I've got at the minute, I do use it quite a lot actually. The Faber Castell Polychromos are a lovely range in that they all look translucent and sort of sit beautifully over each other. Some colours in the range I find are even more translucent than others, and the terracotta one I find is one that is really translucent. So when you pop it down, not as much pigment comes out, but what that means is it's brilliant for glazing over the top of other colours. So you can see here, you can still see the yellow coming through, but you can see the orange going down on top, and it is a beautiful colour. Well, I think it's a beautiful colour to use to glaze over. I did a fox recently and I used it to glaze some of the orange tones on the fox, and that worked really well. I've had quite a run on bays and chestnut horses as well at the minute, and obviously bays and chestnuts, they're all slightly different. You know, no two horses are exactly the same colour coat, but I've used it on a couple of those as well to get sort of, you know, some glazing on some of the tones on some of the commissions that I've done, and it works really well. So it's a nice pencil to have. So I'm doing the body here. This wing will actually come over. Just find my razor. Just take that bit out. I've just dropped. The body will come over the wing will come over the body a little bit, and I'll show you how to do that towards the end when we get onto the wing. So I don't need to worry about it too much at the minute. And I'm just flicking my pencil sort of from the middle upwards and outwards to the outer edges of the bee, because I want the little flicks of the pencil. So when you put your pencil down, you get quite a blunt edge at this end, but as you flick it, you get a nice little wispy end on the end that comes off the paper, the pencil that comes off the paper. And so I want my little wispy ends to be on the outer edge. And I'm just going to go back in with a bit of the brown to just sort of fill that in and keep some of that brown in there. Just blend out the black a little bit. Okay, and then pop some of the black. Now, because this bee is not very big, when I'm doing these stripes, I do have to just keep the pencil strokes quite small, really. Otherwise, I'm just going to just keep encroaching onto the yellow, and eventually I'll have no yellow left. So, just keeping these pencil strokes quite small. And this bigger stripe here, I'm going to work from the middle of the stripe, pushing the pencil up, flicking the pencil up into the whiter or the lighter areas that's above, and then bringing it down to flick into the lighter areas at the bottom. And that way I keep the heaviness of the stripe in the middle, and the two outer edges are sort of a bit more wispy, if that makes sense. And I want to keep the black sort of ideally within that stripe that I've already created with the grey and the brown, because otherwise I'll just, the stripe will just get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it'll just get out of control. So, okay, so I'm just going to go back to the cold grey, and I'm just going to blend that a little bit and blend it down, because this whiter area, it is definitely lighter, but it's not completely white, so I can blend the colours in a little bit. And then this just comes down here a little bit. And let's just grab the eraser and take this out. And I can just take the warm grey one and just start to think about this area a little bit. And just use a little bit of the cold grey, just because there was that tiny little suggestion of the stripe there. Tiny little bit. I don't want to make that too dark at all. And there's just a little bit around here, but it really is tiny. A little bit greyer there. And then just underneath this little bottom stripe is just a suggestion of a little bit, I can see a tiny bit of the orange or the burnt sienna, if that's what you're using. Yeah, okay. I'm just going to put a little bit more pigment into this yellow now. This yellow area. I'm going to take that burnt sienna and I'm just going to start to bring some of the colour in. And just blend that a little bit with the warm grey. Just to knock that back. A little bit of the Bistre just to blend up this stripe here on this side. Blend that out with the cream at the top there, because that's quite a light part of the light part there. And this is a bit of a lighter part. There we go. And then I'm just going to start to bring that in. I'm going to bring it in with the sepia rather than the black so that it's not that harsh. It just stays a little bit more subtle really. But just bring that in a little bit just so that it looks a little bit more fuzzy. And hopefully the brown in the dark sepia just stops that area looking too flat really. If it was just black, just probably wouldn't have the same amount of interest. I mean, it's not desperate if you don't have the sepia, the dark sepia. You know, black will be fine. You can still get a really good result with just the black, but I just want to just add a little bit more interest into the black. But you know, it's really not the end of the world if you don't have the dark sepia and you just have the black. Okay, and let's darken this down because this is going to be quite dark around here. And then just a couple of little suggestions of just the little hairs really in there. That'll be fine. And the bits coming up. Okay, we'll leave that like that. Right, let's come down to these legs here. So I'm just going to fill them back in with the grey again as a base coat, and actually under here as well. This is, I'm going to fill this in with the grey. And I could probably do with sharpening this pencil actually. I have to try and just use it on its edge to get the softer line. Let's just want to make sure that that leg comes out shorter, slightly shorter, so it's coming up at an angle for the back leg. So let's just make that a bit shorter. There we go. And then this one comes down here. And I'm not worried too much about rubbing all of these lines out here, because actually it's going to be dark and black anyway, so we'll just go over those. Let's just put a little bit in there, and then that comes down there like that. Now I can see, I don't know if you can see it on the picture, but I can see a bit of brown down there, a little bit of brown going up into the bottom of the bee, and then let's do these little bits of the leg. There isn't much detail on this this reference picture, but there's just enough so that, you know, we know that it's a bee's leg, but there really isn't much to much detail. And because it's not there, I'm not going to try and put it in. You know, it's not there for a reason, because of the way the photograph has been created. So I'm not going to try and put back. I'm just going to do what's exactly there. Let's come down here. So that sort of comes in there, and then this bit comes out, make that darker, and then we just got this little bit on the end which is quite pale, and then this comes down here. I'll leave that a little bit lighter in there because I can see it's a bit lighter, so I'll just put a bit of grey back in there. There's grey there as well. And then this again comes down into the leg, and you can see on the thing that it, you know, there's not much detail there, so we'll just leave it like that. What I will do though is, now that I've put that leg into the bottom, I'm just going to take this warm grey and just blend. Let's use the, take that leg up into the, sort of like the hairs on the back of his bum area. There we go. And just use the cold grey one to just blend, sorry, the warm grey one, to just blend that a little bit and knock that back. And then the black, actually let's use the dark sepia first, because this is also quite a browny colour rather than the black. Okay, and one thing, whilst I've got the black pencil, I just need to put a little bit of black into here for his head. I've actually gone over the wing there, so let's take that out a little bit. The wing's going to come down here, I've just noticed, so I'll just take that out a little bit and just use a little bit of the Bistre just to drag that into the yellow. And then a little bit of the terracotta. And blend. The antenna is, again, there's not much detail on there, so I'm just going to do a suggestion, just like on the reference image. That's just going to be, just going to go under that a tiny little bit, underneath that with the black. And that's about it. That's all I'm going to do for the so there we go, that's the, let me just get rid of that before I smudge it, these little bits. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the body. What I'm going to do now is to have a look at the wing. So I'm going to take a cold grey one, actually I'll take a warm grey one. Let me just get the eraser and just start to take out some of these lines. And then dab it out. Now you can see that there isn't much detail in these wings. Obviously they're in flight and there really isn't much detail, so I'm just going to put the suggestion of the wings. Okay, this actually is, let's start to draw in the parts of the wings as they join the body. So because it is in flight and there's not much detail in there, I've almost turned my pencil on its side a little bit and just sort of, you know, I don't want any harsh lines in there. I just want a suggestion of some veins, and a suggestion of the makeup of the wing, but there isn't going to be much in here really. Okay, that's the one. So I'm going to switch over to the mid-tone cold grey, and I can start to put in some of these heavier bits at the top up here. And as I said, I'm not too worried about following this exactly. It's just a, you know, a fairly quick drawing. It's just a suggestion, and as long as it looks like a wing at the end, I'm going to be happy. I'm not following everything. Just sort of putting a suggestion of the veins in. It's got the yellow here because obviously underneath that wing the stripe's going to be coming down, and also we've got the head and the coming down there under the wing there, but it would be obviously paler because it would be more translucent. The wing would be over the top of it and sort of blurring it a little bit. Got a little bit of detail coming around here that's sort of suggesting that the wings are not flat as such and more 3D, so I'm just going to put that bit in. And the same on this side. Now the one pencil that I didn't mention, and I forgot to mention it, and to be honest, it really isn't essential anyway, because it's just such a tiny little bit, but on the reference photo you can see that around here is a tiny little bit of like a pinky purple, so I'm just going to add a tiny bit of Manganese Violet, but it really is so little that if you don't have it to put in, it really doesn't matter. It's going to add such a little effect to it that it, you know, it's not worth worrying about if you don't have it. And then I'm going to take the cold grey one, and I'm just going to blend this out a little bit, so I put a little bit of colour in there into the wings. And I think I'm probably going to leave the veins. I'm not going to put any more veins into there now. I think there's enough veins for you to sort of work out what it is. So what I'm going to do now is take that Caran dash that I spoke about, and I'm just going to start to blend over the top, just sort of work out from the top of the wing all the way down to the bottom. And that is just going to blend the wing and create, hopefully create that sort of translucent effect also just bring it round here a little bit. And then just go back with the coal grey just to put those bits back over there, and also just back in with the sepia just to put the little elements of the parts of the wings back in. Let's look at the reference photo. Right, yeah, I think I'm going to leave that one there, that wing, and we'll move on to the other wing, which has actually got even less detail in it. Let's just pull that up on my phone. Let's take this outline out. And again, take the warm grey one and just plot the shape of the wing back in, and this time there's sort of little bits of detail come from the top over, and a little bit around here is just a suggestion, because they're just, you know, there isn't really much detail in there at all. And I did say that wing just came over onto the body just ever so slightly. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the Tombow eraser, make sure it's clean. Actually, if it's not clean, let's clean it off, and then just pop a little suggestion. It's just that top little bit of the wing that is just coming in to the body. And of course we don't want to erase it all, because I don't know if you can see that on the video, but you can still see the little hairlines that are going that way, and that's what we want, because that's how the wing would actually look if, say, you know, it was sitting over the hair or something. Let me just get rid of that mark. So that's all that, you know, I only want to sort of take part of it out. I don't want to take it all out, and then I can just come in with this again, just put that bit back that I just knocked out. Let's go in with the mid-tone grey and put in what I like, the elements of, I think they're probably the elements of the wing again. This is coming down this way, it's also going across that way, and there isn't the detail here, so all I can just put in is a suggestion. And it's obviously not there, you know, the detail's not there for a reason, because the bee's in flight anyway, and this wing is even further behind this one, so there just isn't going to be the detail there. I'm just going to take the kneadable eraser, and just on the end up here, I'm just going to flick in, hopefully you can see, just flick in from the end out, sorry, from the end inwards, and that's just going to create, in fact I can do it on this side as well, just going to create an even more sort of translucent end to the wing. I do that quite a lot on hairs, on manes, just flick that last little bit, and it just gives it that little wispiness on the end, to make it just look a little bit more realistic. So the coal grey one, just adding a little bit of colour. And then again, I'm just going to leave it there really, apart from taking the Caran dash again and blending it out and bringing it into the body a little bit, and just blending it to give it that sort of I suppose glass is the wrong word, but certainly translucent anyway. I can't think of another word for that. And just under here, I'm just going to take this and I'm just going to straighten that up a little bit. Let me just sharpen this grey. Because that is actually, that's bending a bit there, and actually that is just slightly straighter. So let me just bring the leg into the right position there. Yeah, there we go. And that's actually coming down at an angle like that. So I think that I am just about to call that finished. I think let's just put a bit of colour in there, bring that round. Let's just have a look. One final check, and I've got the antenna in, which is something that I have forgotten before, so let's just, that's there. Yeah, I'm going to call that finished. So there you go. Like I say, I will put the links, I'll put the line drawing on my Facebook page, and I'll put the links, I'll put the description of the list of pencils and the link so that you can find the Pixabay reference picture. And yeah, if you have a go, please do let me know how it turns out. I'd love to see any work that you've done. Otherwise, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video. Thanks, bye bye.